Yes, indeed. The wonderful, wonderful sounds of OC Remix stuff, which, quite frankly, we think is amazing. Go check out ocremix.org. There's such a wealth of amazing talent right there, all available for you to download and listen to, and we shall promote it right here on WoW Radio. This is Blue Please, and I'm Total Biscuit. Right. Some of you might be aware that I actually joined a guild again. Always a good thing. Sadly, it was not on my home realm. I have migrated. I am now with the Vortex Fellows on Trollbane. And a nice bunch of fellows they are indeed. Had the chance to run through Karazhan and not wipe on silly things. Killed Nightbane for the first time, did all of this cool stuff that I'd never actually had the chance to do yet. It was funny. Back before pre-TBC, I'd done stuff like Gathun, we were halfway through Naxxramas, but I never seemed to succeed with TBC. I never really got very far, and now perhaps I finally have the opportunity to do that, which will be fun. Well, I say, I did rather enjoy Karazhan, where you can kill the trash and get through the whole damn thing in 3 hours. That's actually pretty enjoyable. I like that. So that's good. And of course I received Fat Epics, so many thanks to the guys at Vortex for getting me Fat Epics, and hopefully more Fat Epics will come soon. And they are, of course, in the form of my crafted Spellfire set. I must attest that I gave up tailoring quite a while ago. And the reason I gave up tailoring was quite specifically that it became bloody useless. I leveled tailoring relatively early on, and this is pre-TBC. I acquired various items, including stuff like the Belt of the Archmage. I also acquired some Flare Core stuff, and all of this other cool stuff. It was alright. Now, the Belt of the Archmage was, at that point, an exceedingly rare item, and very powerful, at least comparatively. But then it ceased to be so, very much. And we had a situation where there was nothing that was really craftable that actually had any value outside of, say, generic resistance gear for various different encounters. And therein, of course, lay the problem. You can make all of these OMG resistance gear things, but is that actually a valuable way of having an entire profession be based upon just one little gimmick, if anything? Resistance gear that can, in some form or another, can also be acquired from various different places. Yeah, sure, some of the best might be craftable, but again, you can get it from there. And is that really what you envisioned yourself doing with your profession? I certainly didn't. I expected to be able to craft great robes of great power and have all of these rare drops all over the place and reputation gains that I could craft, which would, of course, earn me money, and I could use myself, but of course, no, it was all resistance gear. And as resistance fights went on through Legacy Raid dungeons, of course, we had fire being a particular issue in Molten Core and Blackwing Lair, and then nature became an issue, not so much with an AQ40, it was an issue at a point, specifically for certain bosses, not least Huhuran. And then, of course, we had Naxxramas, which was okay up until Sapphiron, and then to some degree Kel'Thuzad with Frost Resistance gear. And Frost Resistance gear was indeed required for Sat. And that was really how far crafting seemed to go. And that was a problem. So, they brought out some new recipes. They brought out your upgrade to 375. Available for you to play around with and see what's available for you to craft. And all of these new items came out, and yeah, they were pretty good. And we thought maybe they were getting on track as regards to the usefulness of crafted items versus drops. But is it all that it's cracked up to be? How have we reached this point where craftables are on a level? How have we reached the point where they are not quite there, but acceptably so, acquirable to the casual player? Where are we with it? That's what I'm going to spend the next 10 or so minutes talking about, and any opinions you may have, email themurloc@gmail.com. That is themurloc@gmail.com. Email! Do so. Do so now. themurloc@gmail.com. So, let's have a look. Now, I made an example earlier, Spellfire, and this was actually a bone of contention. Very specifically. People saying that Spellfire was too good. And I, now wearing it, would have to agree. It is. It really, really is. It's very specific to class, let's face it. I mean, Spellfire, for instance, is amazing for a fire mage. Absolutely incredible. It's not bad, by any stretch of the imagination, not bad at all for a Moonkin Druid. Yeah? Because you've got Arcane there. And then you've got, of course, Frozen Shadow Weave, which is... it's alright, but it's not as good. mainly due to the set bonus more than anything. Those of you may be aware that Spellfire gives a set bonus. Own all 3 pieces, get 77% of your intellect as spell damage. Now that's pretty significant. For me, at my current level of gear, that is going to give me an extra 45 or 50 so spell damage, which is nice. Now add that onto the actual set itself and socket everything properly, and you have an extremely powerful piece of gear. Bear in mind that all of the pieces of Spellfire do in fact have sockets. And that is of course very, very important in the modern World of Warcraft. Sockets, as you are well aware, with the increasing power of gems becoming available, are becoming more and more significant in the idea of twinking your character and the idea of developing its power. Very much so. For instance, I just dumped a plus 12 spell damage epic gem straight into my Spellfire robe. Now if you go to Wowhead, you will see the Spellfire robe. If I remember correctly, it has 72 spell damage. Specifically fire and arcane, but 72 spell damage nonetheless. Yep, Spellfire robe, 72. It also has 28 critical strike rating. It has 17 intellect, and it has 2 sockets. Now, it has a socket bonus of plus 4 stamina, but to be fair, if you're doing PvE endgame raiding, which is what you're going to be using this for, you're certainly not going to be using it much in PvP, because let's face it, you'll be made entirely of paper, which doesn't tend to get you very far. So, you've got that, and you've got these 2 sockets. Now, what's the maximum kind of damage you get in those sockets? Well, you can pop a plus 12 spell damage epic gem in there. Yep, that is a PvP reward gem. I spent 7,000 or so honor acquiring this gem. I had no other use for the honor, I didn't like the gear, I bought a gem instead. So I bought this gem, and it's now in my robe, which takes me up to 84 spell damage, yeah? 84. Now I've got one more socket. I can either dump a plus 9 in there, plus 9 spell damage, yeah, which will take me all the way up to 93, or I could dump a bit more crit in there. I could dump a crit gem in, a plus 8 crit, or even a plus 10 crit, which would take me up to 36 or 38 critical strike rating, which is, as you're probably aware, near enough, almost, not quite, but almost 2% crit. Certainly well over 1.5. That's a lot of crit for a robe, no two ways about that. Now, if you look at the rest of the set, you will find the sockets are identical. All the set bonuses are identical. You have 6 sockets total. So, let's do some maths. If you were to put plus 9 spell damage in every single one of those, you would, of course, acquire an additional... My maths was never really good. 53, if I remember correctly. No, 54. I'm a nub. No one ever said I was good at maths. I leave that to the Theorycraft team. 54 spell damage extra, on top of what you've already got. Now, you've got 50, 50, and 72 there already. So you're looking at 172 spell damage, plus 54. Taking it over 200, and 220. Or so. For 3 pieces of gear, that is a lot of damage. But, of course, you don't have to do that. You can also note that every piece of it has crit on it. Quite a lot of crit as well. The gloves, for instance, have 23 critical strike rating, which translates to almost, it's 1 below 1% crit. Spellfire belt is around 0.75% crit, and the Spellfire robe is just over 1% crit. Now, of course, you could socket every one of these with plus 8, if you wanted. So, you've got 6 8s, yeah? Which takes you to 48. 48 crit. That is 2% additional crit that you can dump in there. It's quite obvious to see that these are incredibly powerful items. Very much so. You do need to be a tailor to get them. Okay, that's cool. You need to be a tailor to get them. However, what you are seeing is, of course, that these items are very much replacing gear far, far, far along the chain. It's only now, with some of the Black Temple drops, that some of the bleeding edge mages, particularly mages, because to be honest, this gear does affect mages more than anyone else in my honest opinion, particularly Deep Fire Raid. It's only now that they're getting Black Temple drops and Mount Hayal drops that these things are actually being replaced. Now, of course, how acceptable that is very much dependent on how you view Black Temple. We had this discussion a few weeks ago. Do you view Black Temple as the end? Have we finished? Are we already done? Or do you view it as the Molten Core, the Blackwing Lair, Anchorage 40, the Naxxramas? What do you view it as? Now, of course, if you're viewing it as something lower, like the Molten Core or the Blackwing Lair, it is acceptable for the stuff to now be replaced. If you're viewing it as the AQ-40 the next Ramis, it becomes less acceptable, because let's face it, acquiring Spellfire is not that hard. It requires an investment of time that is most certainly not proportional to the amount of time you would have to invest to get into Black Temple. You can do it on your own. I did it in 2 weeks. I have 2 out of 3 Spellfire, and I did it in 2 weeks. Doing nothing more than farming. Yeah? I farmed. And farming got me where I wanted to be. It got me what I needed. Okay? And that's fine. This single-player, progressive, casual content, whatever, this craftable stuff, that's all cool. And yeah, you still require tailoring. Also cool. But the scary thing is right now that if you look at a lot of guilds' requirements, certainly those who are about mid-end game right now, maybe doing SSC and some TK, you'll find that they say, where's your Spellfire? And it was interesting to see a thread actually on the WC Radio forums while I was looking for a guild, and it made some very interesting points, and it was of course what made me spec into tailoring and Spellfire in the first place and drop my herbalism. Where's your Spellfire? Why don't you have Spellfire? You're going to need gear like that. And of course, why? Well, you just need to look at the drops and the items to understand why. Have a look at something that I recently acquired and have now, of course, replaced after 2 days. The Robe of the Elder Scribes, I believe it's called. This robe drops from John Bain. It's 27 stamina, 29 int, 24 spirit, 24 spell crit, and 32 damage and healing. It also has a proc. Additional 130 damage for 10 seconds. It's a relatively nice proc, it's okay. Yeah? It's not a bad robe. But the proc rate's only about 5%. Now, that of course is a John Bain robe. John Bain considered to be the second of last boss. Most people consider it optional these days. John Bain not actually considered at this point in time to be the end boss of Karazhan, but certainly an equivalent difficulty. Okay, let's go and have a look for some other robes, shall we? Let's go one stage up. Let's go to our raid. Let's go to our raid button right here on Wildhead, and let's have a look at Serpent Shrine. Serpent Shrine Cavern. Okay. And let's see if we can find a robe that is equivalent. Now, I sadly don't know all that much about SSC drops, so you're going to have to bear with me here. But let's have a look through and see if we can find anything that looks vaguely like a robe. Yes, we can. The Robe of Hateful Echoes. This item drops from Hydros the Unstable, which, as you're aware, is the first boss of SSC. Robe of Hateful Echoes, 34 stamina, 36 intellect, 3 sockets, 25 spell crit, 50 damage and healing. 3 sockets, not bad, okay? That's fair enough. Not bad at all. But, what's with all this stamina? Surely a raiding mage is not really concerned about a lot of stamina. Yeah, the spell crit's there, okay, fair enough. But it doesn't really seem to be itemized as a pure raid item by any stretch of the imagination. And one can argue, of course, that the Spellfire robe is better. Not massively, but it is better. And we have to keep looking as well at stuff like Tier 4 and then Tier 5. Tier 5 probably being one of the better things to compare it to. Okay, so let's see if we can find anything about Tier 5, and let's do some comparisons. Now, I'll go Mage. Yeah? The Robes of Tirisfal. The Robes of Tirisfal are the Tier 5 Mage robes. As you're well aware, Tier 5 robes are acquired via the handing of a token. Yeah? Specifically a token. And you have to kill an rather hard boss to get him. Now, the question is it better? 30 stamina, 35 intellect, 20 spirit, 3 sockets, 5 spell damage, improves spell crit rating by 19, 55 damage and healing. And you've of course got to take into account the set bonuses, and you will find that they are, well, the 4-piece set bonus is exceptionally good, especially for a crit build, but the 2-piece set bonus, nigh on useless. It's not like anyone is really using Arcane Blast all that much at that point in time. So it's very, very odd to see the comparison and to see that, well, it's kinda there, the balance is kind of there, but then again, it kind of isn't. You've still got a exceptionally powerful item. Very much a very, very powerful item indeed. That is craftable and very, very easy to acquire. Now, the question is, how acceptable is this? And I want your opinions over the music break. I want your opinions. The murloc@gmail.com. Email them in, and we shall finish this discussion after wrapping the forums. You listen to Blue Please here on WoW Radio. Check the channel for the post and wrap along. Enjoy. Yo, faux shizzle and so forth. It's time for yet another edition of the one and only horrible rap in the forums. Nobody loves it, everybody hates it, it's awesome. Yeah, in your grill and such. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, here we go on the first rap of the day, folks. Good lord. With a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. WoW Radio battled is bad, so it seems WoW Radio was falling apart. First up, the 4 Horsemen event was pushed back. It should have been on today because something about the people not wanting to come on. Then 2 of the staff quit the radio station. 2 of the biggest names in WoW Radio just up and left, leaving TV Total Biscuit, the head guy at WC Radio in tears. Mark Harper, guy from World of Theory Crap, quit www.WCRadio.com. Forum, index.php, question mark, top big equals 5740. Minuet from the X quit. Now, something to note, Mark Harbour guy is also the guy who made and owns the WoW Radio website, and he's taken the website with him and he finally leaves. WCRadio.com. News_archive.php. Question mark, news_ID equals 454. So WoW Radio isn't gonna have a website anymore. All this is happening just after Octane and Hordak. From the popular show, Octane and Hordak versus the world quit the station a week or so ago. It's a Saturday for WoW Radio. What the hell is this, and why do I care? Red Bull is indeed for the win. I listened once, and decided it was totally crap. It was another RPG radio show, but I can't remember the name of it, but it had pretty extensive seconds on WoW, and I listened to it a few times, much better. I suppose it helped that the stuff sounded like adults. Oh, it sucks for them. I can't say I'm too sad. Slanik is really the only host I found entertaining. I could confirm that Spirit Wolf, recently named Spirit Wolf, is still that sexy. It was a dumb idea then, and it's a dumb idea now. Wow, Wow, this blows, and I think I'm a jinx of all this happened right after I started listening. And B just posted a comment on the soon to be taken down website. In this case, certain people decided to disagree with the decision made, and rather than go through the appropriate motions with the powers they were given as a privilege, decided on sabotage and effective terrorism as the watchwords. All of this rubbish only harms our listeners. You're the only ones who suffer the show cancellations, the broken websites, etc., all because someone couldn't sit down like an adult and either solve a problem by talking a dramatic process. Dramatic process? Did I say dramatic? I meant democratic process, or simply accept that everything in their working environment may not necessarily be as they want it. Big deal. There's always part of our jobs that we don't like. We put up with them for the greater good and try and affect changes in the common adult. Did you say adult? What's an adult? We don't know what an adult is. We like to be a child, adult, blah, 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 blah. Now he is calling and leaving staff terrorists. Shame on UTB, shame. I thought that staff quitting / leaving employees was something that happens everywhere. To say they are sabotaging the station by doing so is a big egotistical. Well, this is TV we're talking about. Unless they were under contract to do X amount of shows or with a white time, they are perfectly entitled to leave when they wish, for whatever reasons they want. Only when someone is under contract does the employee have limitations on when or how they leave. Good luck getting people to sign a contract to work on an internet radio station, though. I'd also say that not having the website owned and operated by the company, instead owned hosted by a member of staff, was also a huge piece of incompetence on his part. That's just business 101, really. WoW Radio was a sad attempt to walk in the footsteps of E-Radio anyway. A big part of E-Radio's success is that all the listeners can join an in-game chat and talk with it about what playing, make requests, or participate participate in contests, etc. That doesn't work in a game with 100 different servers, because IRC doesn't exist. Funny thing about WoW, it is fun to play, but really not that deep of a conversation piece. There's a radio now, I'm intrigued by your discussion and would like to subscribe to your newsletter. You would be amazed how many things people have to talk about. I listened to WoW Radio a few times. I thought it was pretty good. Sad to see them falling over. Fixed, you're old. LOL. TV demands more snacky. TV demands more snacky. Or they'll kick you in the face, I want play more Finn, okay, thanks, bye. OMG, this could very well mean the end of the banana quarry as we know it. Dun dun dun.